na ang pagsasama at pagtutulungan ng ating bansa at ang bansang Mexico para malaman natin kung ano na nga ba ang latest sa mga pagtutulungan na ito at sa partnership na ito. Ngayong umaga makakasama natin si Ambassador Julio Camarena. Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning. Delighted to be here with you this morning.
Yes. Ambassador, we have a long-standing partnership and a friendship with Mexico. So maybe we could go a little bit into the background and the history of this partnership that we have.
Yes, indeed. You know, the Philippines and Mexico, in fact, have been connected for the last 500 years. And our relationship goes back to those 500 years for the first 250 years. Everybody knows the Philippines, that Mexico was administering the Philippines through Spain. A lot of people in the Philippines think that they were only linked to Spain. But in fact, they were not linked to Spain directly. They were linked to Spain through Mexico. At that time, Mexico was considered what's called the Vice Kingdom of New Spain. And the Philippines was directly then linked to Spain through the Vice Kingdom of New Spain, which was Mexico. What did that mean? That for 350 years, 500 years ago, where in fact the Philippines was connected to Spain, the first 250 of those 350 years were connected directly through Mexico. That brought to the Philippines and Mexico great similarities in tradition, cultural influences, in the language, in the traditions, in the food. This shows not only that 30% of Tagalog, 30% of the words in Tagalog are in Spanish. But what very few people know, that 5% of those are in fact in Nahuatl, the Aztec language. Let me give you an example. You have many words in Tagalog that in fact are part of the Nahuatl or Aztec language. And many of these are food items like chayote, pasote, camote, avocado, all those chocolate, all these are Aztec languages that were incorporated into Tagalog.
Yes.
But we also have other Aztec languages, for example, Tiangi. Tiangi is a small market for the Aztecs.
Yes.
And the large market where in fact there's food and music is called Palenque.
Palenque, okay.
All these words you have incorporated into Tagalog,
Yes.
and they're not Spanish, but they are Aztec. You have many other traditions that are very close like that. For example, the piñata that they have in parties that you break. The piñata is a very typical Mexican tradition. You have a lot of masks and cultures and colors in your tradition, in your practices that are very much linked to the Aztec traditions, the Mexican traditions, the culture of Mexico. In that relationship that goes back 500 years ago, for the first 250 years, it is important for us to also note that there was a very strict link on commercial ties. And this commercial ties start with what everybody knows as the Acapulco-Manila galleon.
Yes, actually, when we go back to the history, we always hear the galleon trade that happened between the Philippines and Acapulco. So maybe we could delve into that as well.
Yes, the galleon trade was in fact the first form of free trade agreement that existed between Asia and the Americas. And that's 500 years ago. That shows how amazing our relationship was. And all the goods were collected in Manila that came from China, from Japan, from the southern part of what is now Malaysia and Indonesia and Vietnam. At that time, all the products came from those regions into Manila, and then the products went across the Pacific Ocean straight to Acapulco. In Acapulco, many of the products stayed, and some went across Mexico onto the port of Veracruz and straight to Spain, and vice versa. Many of the products went back, and therefore that's why you have all these products like chayote, chocolate, pasote, all these words and products that you have over here in the Philippines that in fact came from Mexico, like the camote. We also have products that came from the Philippines to Mexico. There is the mango. Mexico is right now one of the top, in fact, the #1 exporter of mango. But these are not mangoes from Mexico. They were originally from Manila. In fact, we call one of the mango de Manila because it came from Manila. Okay. So the issue here is that there are many, many products that went back and forward from Mexico to the Philippines and vice versa. And in that we had cultural tradition and of course the impact in language that I've been speaking to you.
Actually, now that we've been seeing a little bit of the history, now let's bring it to our time today. how are we with our relationship, especially with the trade and investment side of things?
I think I'm grateful that you mentioned this. I think it's very important. Mexico has been a very keen business partner of the Philippines in the last few years. In 2013, Mexico by far is one of the top foreign direct investors in the Philippines. This happened because a Mexican company, FEMSA, bought the bottling company of Coca-Cola in the Philippines for an investment of $1.6 billion US. The purchase at this stage has taken place in approximately about 68%. There's still a part missing. But before FEMSA, we had S.M.E that came in the cement industry into the Philippines with an investment today of $1.2 billion, $1.3 billion. That brings the Mexican investments, just these two companies, close to $2.9 billion. There are other type of investments. We have many call centers coming in, both in the area of Manila and Cebu, that have been working directly in the area. So our investments are close to $3 billion. There's a new company coming with a very interesting investment. I cannot reveal the name yet, but it's coming into the manufacturing of electrodomestics. And this company is also coming up with an investment of close to $1.5 billion. So altogether, the investments of Mexico at this stage are reaching important figures. The Philippines, however, is also investing in Mexico. One of the major ports of Mexico in Manzanillo, Colima, is run by the International Port Operations, ICTC here in the Philippines. So therefore, you see also an important investment of the Philippines investment into Mexico. Therefore, we are rich business partners. We are working on bringing new partnerships in that area, and we are quite optimistic about that matter. We have a trade element that we are working on. I think it's important that we speak about the opportunities of trade in Mexico. We underline that Mexico can be also a very important business partner for the Filipinos to sell their products in Mexico. Mexico has signed 13 free trade agreements, out of which it gives it access to 45 countries. But also, Mexico forms part of the biggest economic bloc, which is NAFTA, therefore with the US and Canada. That will tell us that, in fact, if you have investments that are coming from the Philippines into Mexico, our market is enormous. Any product that will go into Mexico could actually be sold in Canada or the US as well under the free trade agreement concept. As I said, we have 13 free trade agreements with Europe and Latin America. Therefore, any Filipino product that is sold in Mexico will have access to 45 countries.
All right. As we can see, we've had a long-standing, strong relationship with Mexico, and it's nice to see that it's still being developed till this day, and then it's still being strengthened with regards to all the trade investments and all the business deals that we have with Mexico. So thank you very much for your time this morning. Today we had Ambassador Julio Camarena, ang Ambassador ng Mexico. Thank you very much for your time this morning and for everything that you've shared with us here on Good Morning, Boss.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador.
I look forward to receiving you on the National Day on the 15th of September. We will be having the beginning of a tequila week all over the country. Tequila is our national drink, and we hope that we can share how tequila is produced throughout the Philippines and bring a little bit of the landmarks of Mexico into the Philippines, which will be the beginning of a cultural visit of an exchange. We have our president coming next year soon after APEC, and therefore we would try to promote a lot of the cultural elements of Mexico in the Philippines.
All right, everyone is looking forward to that, even we are. So, Tequila Week. Guys, aabangan natin yan.